Hello, everyone. Welcome back to your show, Ask Kaveti. I'm your host, Manal, and we are always going to be joined by Mr. Srinivas Kaveti himself. So, hi, sir. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks, Miss Meenal. How was your day today?
It was interesting. It was a long day. I had work, so now I'm here and ready to talk to you about our very interesting topic.
So
Anything? How was your day?
it was brilliant, brilliant.
Okay. So, viewers, our today's topic is adoption. Now, I know that's a very overall topic, it's very general topic, but we will dive into little details. What is adoption like in other countries, in here in America, and what it is like, the process is like, and just different aspects of adoption. So I would like to start by asking Mr. Srinivas Kaveti himself that what are your overall thoughts about adoption?
Very interesting topic you took, Miss Meenal, today. Um, because of the pandemic and because of the war in Ukraine and the way things are going in the world, a lot of kids are becoming orphans. And America is encouraging American US citizens or permanent residents to adopt children from overseas. I mean, if you look at past 2 years, 3 years, because of the pandemic, a lot of family members, they want, because they're losing their loved ones, sisters, brothers, and, nieces and nephews, they're becoming parentless. So people from a lot of countries, they're adopting children. The highest number of adoption was last couple of years was from China, Russia, Guatemala, and many countries, South Korea, North Korea, and stuff like that. But China remains the highest, and Russia also. When you look at adoptions from, especially from South Asian countries, India and Pakistan and Bangladesh, they also do a lot of adoptions. There are intricacies because there are personal laws. If you take Pakistan or Bangladesh or India, there are local laws for adoption. But in America, there's it's the interesting part is every state has its own adoption procedures. There are many questions your viewers might have: who can adopt, and what would be the age of the children? I mean, you can ask me
Yes.
specific questions. I'll keep answering.
Okay, so I guess I will start by just asking what types of adoptions are there? Because as you said, there are local and international. So if you can tell me more about those.
Interesting. In adoptions in America, I want you and your viewers to understand that these are Americans, US citizens, and US permanent residents. Because of the divorce rate, high divorce rate in America, a lot of parents and a lot of children, they get separated. Biological parents get separated with their children, and women and men, they get married, remarried again, or sometimes they start living in under the they start living in with other spouses, or partners. So the first thing is stepchildren adoption is very high in America. The second type of adoption locally is adopting for foster care children. People also adopt from foster cares.
Yeah.
That's more popular in America. That's a domestic adoption. And in terms of adoptions, because US citizens are always adopting people from all over the world, these are
Yes.
called international adoptions, and they're also called inter-country adoptions. The more intricate information as for the immigration law, there are types of adoptions called Hague Conventions adoptions. These are called Hague adoptions. And second is called orphan adoptions. The Hague Convention was in The Hague, Netherlands. 100 countries, they came together and they said, okay, if you want to adopt children, the US Department of State, they said, okay, there's a stipulated procedure by the Department of State and Immigration. That's called Hague adoptions. And of course, because Americans also adopt a lot of kids from all over the world, in terms of when there are outbreak of war, natural disasters, sometimes family, adopting their own family members. Americans are very generous. They want to give better life to people all over the world, especially children. So they also adopt a lot of orphans. The beauty is the Department of State has come up with a list of adopting agencies. Sometimes people want to adopt from Philippines, people adopt from some third world countries, and not all the countries allow adoption. I mean, the interesting aspect for your viewers, United Arab Emirates, they don't allow any adoptions. I mean, it's interesting because they actually
Yeah.
have laws, Islamic laws. They don't allow.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking about when we thought of talking about adoption. Was that I know that in Islam, adoption is there are different rules under Islam. So I know that like countries like Pakistan, and then as you said, United Arab Emirates, they probably have different laws and regulations when it comes to adoption. And I was just wondering, like, what is adoption like in those countries, like Pakistan? Like, who is adopting actually, and are how many adoptions are happening? And I'm guessing it's not a lot then, right?
Um, There's Pakistan. They are popular. I mean, mostly Germans. They come and adopt people from Pakistan, and Pakistani citizens. I mean, who are overseas, those who settle in America, they go back and bring their own families in adoption. The first and foremost criteria for adoption is the parents, the biological parents. They have to go to the court and apply for an adoption. And people are adopting their children, both the parents have to go, and the persons who are giving biological parents and adopted parents, they have to go to court, make an application. And in Pakistan and Bangladesh and India, the courts award adoption decree or adoption certificate or guardianship certificate. And in US as well, if you go to the court, there are local agencies which assist you because the Americans, they want to see when you're adopting the child, they want to see about the parents. They want to see if there's any child domestic issues, whether they're genuinely they want to adopt the kids. Do they have financial ability? Do they have house? Do they have, do they have any abuse background or any criminal background?
Right.
They want
Yeah,
to see
because
that.
that is a very sad part of reality too, because a lot of these, maybe like in a lot of the third world countries, these kids might not be growing up in good condition. So
Right.
I think, yeah, it is wise to see the background and where the kids are coming from, and also if these parents can provide a nice environment for these kids, because that's their future. That's if they're adopting these kids, then like you have to promise them a good future.
The background was there was some sex trade, slavery and other things. They used to bring children and they used to
Mm.
bring them to go to prostitution. So, there was big movement in the world. And to protect the interests of the children, and United Nations came up with conventions to protect the rights of the children. So, every country has its checks and balances. Pakistan have its own. India has its own. They have come up with a law, the Social Welfare Department. They check the credibility of the children. They check the credibility of the parents and adopted parents and biological parents. They do a thorough check before the child is being given to the parents overseas. The other thing is the other couple of impediments which have in America, there are a lot of women. They're
Yeah.
single. They don't want to get married. They want to remain a spinster, but they still want to adopt children. So the minimum requirement is for women in America, they have to be 25 years of age. The other issues they have in America is if you're a man, if you want to unmarried man, if you want to adopt a child, then it's a red flag. You can bring a boy, but not a girl. I mean, it's not impossible, but there are checks and balances.
Mm.
And so as a woman, if they want to bring a man or a boy.
Yeah.
The other issues we see internationally, let's say if you take Pakistan or India or Bangladesh, religion is a big thing in our countries.
Yeah.
So when, because America, the majority of parents are Christians, when they're adopting a Muslim boy or a Hindu boy or a Buddhist boy, or if it is a Christian boy, there's no issue. If they're adopting interfaith religion, that is also an aspect which the biological parents are looking at it. I mean, if it is an adopted child from an orphanage, there are no issues. But if you're coming from certain religious background, the biological parents want their child to, follow their own religion.
Yeah.
There have been issues like that. So,
But
yeah.
sorry to distract you, but it's something popped into my head that, let's say, okay, yes, these biological parents want their kids to go in the same faith, right? Follow the same faith. But then when they are signing off adoption papers, aren't they just giving their right away? So it doesn't really matter which faith the kid follows, right?
Brilliant question, brilliant question. In the US, that's what it is. If you're adopting a child, if the court and American courts are giving an adoption, it's automatic. The religious rights and political rights and property rights, they all go with the child. And you get the religion of the parents, and you get severance from your biological parents. You don't get no property rights, no religious rights, nothing. But when you're bringing children from overseas, international adoptions, then the issue comes there, especially if you see in Pakistan and Bangladesh and some Islamic countries, because if you're an American, if you're American Christian, then the issue comes. The courts are
Yeah.
going to look at the best interest of the child. Other than that, if it is Christian to Christian, no issues. Yes, it's very complex procedures, and many will be surprised. The international adoption costs anything to do with $35,000 to $50,000. It's a very expensive business.
Yeah. I mean, I would have thought that adoption would be free, but I guess not. um,
There's a
that's
court fees
crazy. Yeah.
involved. There's an attorney fees involved. There's a fees by the international agencies. They will do the credibility check of these parents. There's a whole heap of things because you got to go through the local overseas government clearances, and you have to make an application with immigration. Immigration has to approve your petition. Then the consulate has to give you a visa, and you have to pay the fees to the consulate. You have to pay the fees to the Department of State. You have to pay the fees to the USCIS. Then you have to pay the attorneys. I mean, there's a whole heap of things for them.
So,
And on the top of it, the interesting part is the American government is going to see whether the children have any health issues. That's another thing.
mm,
And they're going to see whether the children are juveniles, if they have any criminal background. They're going to check up a lot of things before they give their green cards.
yeah.
So, and they don't want them to bring and become a burden in the society.
So, okay, so it makes sense that when there's an international adoption, I guess there you have to pay for the fees and the immigration process and everything else. But then what about the local ones? Like, where is that money going?
Local adoptions, if the American born children, as I said to you initially, step children, they're all American citizens. It's only you go to court, get an adoption decree from the courts in America. There's no immigration fee, but still there is a fees because there's some agencies in America. Let's say an example in New Jersey or New York. Before you take adoption of a child, the government is going to check you. There's an agency you have to hire. There's an agency fees. That agency will come and check whether you have an apartment or a house. When the child comes into your house, they have a separate bedroom, and they're going to see whether you have any criminal history, and they're going to see whether you have a job, employment. They want to see whether there are any cases as against you, even domestic violence cases. What is the reason? Do you have any children? If you don't have a children, why you're adopting? There's whole 9 yards. Well, do you have enough money to buy a medical insurance for the kids? All of
Mm.
that. Because and going to the court, even local courts, to the family courts, you have to pay the court fees. You have to pay the attorney fees, and it might not be 35 to $50,000, but still it's expensive in America too.
So, anyways, I wanted to go back to something that we talked about earlier, that how there are a lot of cases of single mothers adopting in the US. And that made me think of how the birth rate is going down because a lot of people don't want to have kids of their own, call it because of the economic atmosphere, the environment, whatever. But you think that adoption is going to be more popular in the future just because of how the rate is declining of birth?
Now, because for past 2 years, and especially because of Afghanistan and now Ukraine, the US has come up with the new procedures to make it simplified for the kids, those who want to be adopted by Americans. They're simplified. There's more adoptions now from Ukraine, from Afghanistan, from Syria, other parts of the world. People are, they're bringing children, small kids to America because past 2, 3 years, there are a lot of kids without parents. So in past 2, 3 years, I mean, 2 years ago it was low, but now it's high now. People are coming to America. They're bringing children from overseas. There's a lot of adoptions from Philippines as well. And the problem is that some couple of countries there in Philippines and Syria, there's no divorce rate. People are stuck. So, that's another thing. People have problems. The children have problems in their families.
Yeah.
And in Guatemala, if you see adoption rate is high, they bring people from Guatemala too, and the divorce rate is nil. They can't get divorced there because of the Catholic background. Philippines and Vatican City, it's amazing. There's no divorce rate. So what's going to happen when there's a deadlock with a family, children are suffering? They want to, the parents, they want to, they can't afford. So they give their children in adoption.
That is a sad reality, honestly. And just thinking about it, how like the kids are the ones who will suffer, it's always comes down to that. And then if they stay back, if they do stay with their biological parents, then it's just a harder life for them.
Yes.
So definitely. So then what are the most popular? I guess America would be the more popular country where adoption occurs mostly.
Well, many countries they adopt people. I mean, but because we are addressing from U.S. standpoint, I am restricting myself to the U.S. And the question is, who can get adopted? You have to be below 18. You can't be adopted more than that. The more you grow older, the courts want the consent of the child as well. And who can adopt? American citizens and permanent residents can adopt. And they should have job. They should have tax returns. They should not have any criminal history background. They should have a home. You could adopt if you have children. Sometimes people call us and say, hey, we have 2 children, but we still want to bring somebody from third world country.
Yeah.
And that doesn't stop them from adopting. American courts do allow such things. Immigration do allow bringing people from overseas in adoption. So, mostly Christians, American Christians, they're more, they adopt more from overseas, especially from third world countries.
Do you think then, like, religion has something to do with this? Like, I guess, yeah, right?
Excellent question.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, yes. The adoption is less popular in Islamic countries.
Yeah.
It's more in the Western European and Christian countries, yes. That's more popular in Christian society than Islamism or Hinduism or Buddhist or any other religions, even Judaism, Jews as well, yes.
Because so like I'm from Pakistan, as you know, and I've heard adoption can be a fun topic to discuss at like family events, and I've heard different things. So what I've heard is that people don't really adopt in Pakistan because there's this mahram aspect in Islam, that if a couple adopts a girl, then that girl is non-mahram for the man. And if they adopt a boy, then that boy is non-mahram for the woman. So I guess it's interesting to think about how religion shapes your childbearing or child caring aspect in life.
You're right, Minan. You're right, because it's a very good question you picked up, because in the world, the largest religion is Christianity, and the second largest is Islamism. the whole world. And third one is Buddhism, and fourth or fifth are Hinduism, and Judaism is very small. You're very right, because if you see the world, even in Africa and other parts of the world, Islamism is the second largest religion, established in the world. So it does has an influence on this in this topic. You're right.
Mm.
But looking at the humanitarian aspect, how the Christian world looks at it, because they
Exactly.
want to give, Christian world, they want to give better life to people from third world countries.
Yeah.
That's all basically. And sometimes, their families, they want to bring their families, sister's son, brother's son, they want to adopt. It's mostly inter-family. So we get clients mostly inter-family, but they're big law firms. They specialize in adoptions. They work with adopting agencies. We don't do it particularly from a Desi perspective, but we do get calls now and then. Yeah, it's not a great topic, but just for an information for your viewers, because of this pandemic and because of this, Ukraine war and everything, there are a lot of people are talking about this. People are, coming from Ukraine and other parts of European countries because of the natural disasters and war and everything, pandemic that's causing. That's
Yeah.
another.
Well, I whenever I think about adoption, I won't think about it's gonna sound funny, but I think about Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Like they have adopted kids from other countries just so they could provide a good life for these
Right,
kids.
right.
So I think yes, if you are going the humanitarian route, that's big props to you because kids do deserve a good life and a better future. And if you are able to do that, then I think that's a good step.
Well, I mean, if any of your viewers have any questions, because it's a very intricate subject, because people
Yeah.
in America, there are 50 states, there are 50 established procedures, but immigration law is same all over the country. And people who are coming from other parts of the world, they have to check up with their local lawyers. And their two countries have to be participating. The country, let's say US government and the local government, they have to participate. The local lawyers and the lawyers from US and immigration lawyers have to participate in this process. It's a very complex process. If any of your viewers have any questions, they can send it to us. We'll be happy to
Yes.
answer them. And if this is not any, we're not trying to give any legal advice, but they should contact their competent local lawyers from their own jurisdictions, get check it up from the local lawyers and procedures. And it's a complex process, takes time, expensive. And
Yeah.
once the other part of the beauty is, once you give an adoption to the adopted parents, that's it. The child severs. It's called severance of rights from the biological parents. Tomorrow you
Mhm.
can't say that, oh, I want to sponsor my biological parents. Severance means your relations are cut from your parents as per the US law. You will not get anything of their property. You will not get anything about their religion. You will not get there anything from them. Once the severance is done, you come to America on a green card and citizenship. You can also get a citizenship straight away, living overseas once the adopted parents adopt you, because you can apply for a certificate of citizenship overseas. The Americans will give you a US passport. You're coming to America with a US passport. That is a beauty. So once you
Wow.
come, that's it. You can go back and say, hey, I want to bring my sister, brothers. You can bring in later as siblings once you attain majority, but not until you attain the age of 18. And you cannot bring your biological parents. That's it. So
Oh,
that's one checks and balances one has to understand. And
yeah.
your viewers should not think that, oh, this is a way they can come
Bring
and
people
then they
in.
can bring their family into US.
Oh,
No way.
yeah.
So that's the checks and balances. The other thing is the government of America is going to look whether you have a good health, you don't have any criminal history background. They're going to check up your parents' background. They're going to check up the adopted parents' background. There's a whole heap of checks before they grant citizenship. So once you come, you're done. So, I mean, this for your viewers, what I'm trying to say, check it up with local lawyers, and this is just only for information and education purposes. We're not trying to solicit any business from any of your viewers, and just for information purposes.
No,
And
I mean, I feel like a lot of people might be watching this show just to see, like, what are the adoption laws, and maybe if they do have more questions, they should definitely reach out if they're thinking about adoption in the future or they're already in the process. So yeah, definitely.
well, and I thank you, Meenal, for your time today, and I
I thank
especially
you.
I thank the crew of Mana TV International. We've been doing every week, and thanks for your time, Meenal.
I thank you for your time. You always have an answer to all my questions, and that's why I like talking to you, because you give me a really good answer with details and the explain the laws and what's going on out there. So I hope I you guys enjoyed the show like I did. I thought this topic was very informational for today, and it's something that we don't really talk about. So I just wanted to talk about adoption and what it is like right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Mr. Srinivas Kaveti. And we're here every week with new topics. So if you want us to talk about anything else, anything different, any questions you have, just reach out to Mana TV International. And I will see you next week with Mr. Kaveti. See ya.
Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel of Mana TV.
Yes,
And if you
please.
want to know more, I have my own Kaveti Law. Please subscribe, and you can see many videos in that. And we are in Manhattan, New York. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Leave us any comments. Just to assist your viewers, my WhatsApp number is 917-324-7803. Thank you very much and have a great week.